right, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About This. I am your host, Crystal Hicks. My guest today is Lacy Paisley. Paisley is an overcomer of domestic violence, sexual harassment, homelessness, a speech impediment, and autoimmune disease. She wanted something different. She needed something different. So she wanted to make a difference and discovered the one thing that holds us back from being marvelous. It's our own mindset. And she decided to take her 20 plus years of corporate leadership experience and transition into a real estate and created a brand and a movement through her first book, I Am the Dopest 55 Affirmations for Living Your Dope Life. Her upcoming book, The Soul Sip Collection of DŌP Life Affirmation, couples cocktails, mocktails, and more with a dash of inspiration through affirmation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Lacy Paisley. How you doing, Lacy? Or should I call you Paisley?
You can call me Paisley, that's fine.
Okay. How you doing this evening?
I am super fantastic and wonderful. How about you?
I'm good. I'm always waiting to the last minute to try to do these interviews, and then I'll be rushing around and trying to get everything together. I'm terrible when it comes to that. But other than that, everything is good. I can't complain. I'm here. So I'm excited to have you on this episode of Let's Talk About This. And I want to get into your life story, first of all.
Let's jump right in there. Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready to get right on into it. You have first of all, let's talk about the beginning of your life and how you transitioned from all the obstacles that you faced in the beginning of your life into moving on into taking those obstacles and making it a purpose out of the experiences that you went through.
So, I think that life has a way of lifing, right? And so we're constantly faced with different challenges and decisions that we have to make because of them. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about the different challenges, they weren't all at one time, right? They all kind of happened over different periods of time. And so the speech impediment, so when I was a little kid, elementary school, I had a lisp, and it was very significant to the point where I had to go to speech therapy. And so a lot of the times when people hear me speak, they can't even imagine. They're like, you had a speech impediment. So but that was something that I had to work on. I had to, go to speech therapy and work through that. I didn't even, when you grow up with certain things in your life, you don't know that it's different. It's just you. Mm-hmm. And then, then you start to have people teasing and, saying little things or mocking you and things like that. And then you're like, oh, well, that is different. So, that was something that I had to work on. Mm-hmm. So that was of the things that you mentioned, right? That was one of the things I was a little kid. I don't know, maybe second grade when I started going to speech therapy for that.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
You're fine. Jump in wherever you have, need some clarity or whatever.
No, I was gonna say that my grandson had a speech impediment when he was born. He's one of a twin, and as he got older, a little bit older, he outgrew it. So I can understand what you're saying when you say that you didn't realize it, but at some point it just eventually it just something that you grew out of. But yeah, my grandson experienced the same thing. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
It's a part of like how you deal with the different challenges. But yeah, so that was my first experience, I guess I would say.
Right. So let's get into let's get into your book. your first book, I Am the Dopest.
Uh-huh.
And in that book, you have 55 affirmations for living your dope life.
Yes.
Okay, let's get into what inspired you to write this book and to have these 55 affirmations.
So what inspired me, really, I kind of have to go back. I was living in New York, and I had taken a job there, and uh, I had an employee. I was just telling somebody this story. I had an employee that was just as different from me as could possibly be. And we had a connection, and he would come into my office and talk to me, and he would be um very transparent about his life and what he had going on. He was a husband, a dad of three kids who had all their different challenges and things like that. And he was having some health issues, and he came into my office one day, and he was telling me kind of some of the stuff that he was going through, right? And when he was
Mhm.
telling me about what he was going through, I was like, wow, we got to stay healthy, try to, keep your head up, for your family, all of this. So he had gone out because he had to have surgery. He came back to work, and they had him on a really strict diet, and he looked like he was miserable, right? Eating the food that he had to eat. Um, and then some time went by, maybe a few weeks or whatever. I hadn't seen him in a while. And one day he came to my office, and he was like, hey, where you been? And I said, where have you been? I haven't seen you. And we had this brief exchange, and he said, at the end, he said, I missed you. And I was like, oh, like it really, you don't normally have employees walking into your office
Mhm.
to say, hey, I missed seeing you. And it just really happened that we weren't he was working in the evenings. I'm working there in the days. He had different days off. So, it just happened that we hadn't seen each other.
Right.
And so, oh, that warmed my heart. Well, not very long after that, we got a call from his family that they had found him unresponsive, and he passed away.
Oh, wow.
And it and so that was our last real exchange, right?
Mhm.
And well, all I could remember was like he was doing his best and trying hard, but he was to stay healthy for his family, and he wasn't he didn't win that battle, right? And he was doing the things, but he seemed unhappy even doing them, right? And
Mhm.
so I decided to become a holistic health and wellness coach. And so I went and got certified and did all this training for a real long time.
Mhm.
And when I did that training, I came up with a 21-day DŌP Life detox program.
Mhm.
And DOPE is DOP for dope on purpose. And when I created that, it's a mind, body, soul detox. So it wasn't just about eating great, healthy foods and stuff like that. It was really like it starts here with your mind, do things for your body, and that impacts your dope soul.
Mhm.
And a part of that was I had created these affirmations, right? So I created 22 affirmations for the DŌP Life Detox program. And when I created those affirmations and I rolled out that program, the people who participated in my program, they were just like, we love the affirmations. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay. So I started to write a book, and it wasn't going to be a book of affirmations. And I kind of got stuck in what I was writing. And someone said, why don't you do your affirmations? And so I was like, huh, I can do that. So
Mhm.
it became a whole thing, right? So I created 55 affirmations, and each affirmation in the book has an affirmation statement that goes with it.
Mhm.
And it's infused with music because I speak in lyrics because I love music. So there's a lot. It's different, right? So it's not really that whole affirmations of like, oh, it's so woo woo. It's really kind of, hey, you are dope. You are dope because you are, right? Dope on
Mhm.
purpose. So I created the DŌP Life Movement from that. And like I said, DŌP is DOP for dope on purpose. And then the definition that I assign to the word dope is someone or something excellent, great, impressive. Because a lot of the times we don't remember who we are and that are really dope. And sometimes we need somebody else to help activate that in our lives so that we can tap into our intrinsic dopeness.
Yeah, that's true, because you're right. Sometimes we don't realize that, that how dope, like you said, how dope we are. Um, sometimes we have a natural instinct of giving other people those accolades for being dope. And sometimes we really don't look at ourselves that we're dope too. We have a lot to offer. We have natural gifts, and a lot of times a lot of people don't tap into those gifts. But yeah, I really like that. So what are some of the affirmations that you put into the book?
So the title of the book, I Am the Dopest, is one of the affirmations.
Okay.
That's one of the affirmations. Some of the other affirmations are my spirit is dope. I choose to be dope.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm actually just thumbing through here. Um, my purpose is dope. I am a champion. I'm focused on living my dope life. And so I think, and I can share with you one of the affirmation statements, because the book itself, right, it's an easy read.
Mm-hmm.
Also intended for people to be able to pick up and find what resonates with them in that moment on that day, and then to be able to use that. So I got started using affirmations when I was at a really, really tough time in my life and going through a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it's just a way to reframe things, change your mindset, and really get recentered and focused. And so that's how I started using affirmations for myself. And I saw such a change in my life, in my outlook, and just how it helped me. Like I could just, if I could be having a negative thought or doing something and think like, hey, this is not the direction that I want my mind to go. So I could just start to say something like, all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and grace.
Mm-hmm.
And I can all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and grace. And then you just say it until you start to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start to feel it, then you can switch up your whole mindset
Mm-hmm.
in in that particular moment. And like one of the affirmations is DŌP Life affirmation number 20. It's my spirit is dope.
Mm-hmm.
And the statement that goes with that is unapologetically dope. Your spirit is your true self, not the person you unpack for guests or in the workplace. It's the person you are in your soul. The very fiber of your being is where you can find your spirit, the essence of you. Your true self is dope. Don't be afraid to show up authentically. Sprinkle that shit on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Life affirmation number 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Yes, I like that, because sometimes especially if you're a person who struggled with mental health issues or some things in your life. I know in your past you had some struggles that you overcame, like for instance, domestic violence. Was that the reason why, like, some of the things that you went through as far as like overcoming domestic violence and sexual harassment, was that the reason why you decided, okay, I need to put these things in my mind that I'm more than what happened to me in my past?
I think that I've always had a level of resilience and tenacity, right? To be an overcomer. And that's why I say overcomer versus a survivor. Because
Mm-hmm.
to me, being an overcomer to being a survivor is to be left alive. But I want to
Mm-hmm.
live. And so if I'm an overcomer of something, I'm living. right? I'm not just left alive. I want to actually live my life. And so I think that for me, getting through those things, there just wasn't another option for me. It was to get through it. But everybody is not that same way, and they don't always tap into their resilience and their tenacity. So for me, whereas I'm like, okay, I went through that. Okay, now on to the next thing, and I've overcome that thing. So now I'm on to the next thing. That's not everybody's story. Some people, where they're connected to the source of their pain, right? It's very difficult for them to transition out of that. And so for me, I want you to connect to the source of your joy. I want you to connect to the source of your dopeness. I want you to connect to the greater things that are inside of you that you have to give, and to be able to help you remember that you should be dope just because you are.
Yeah, that's good. That's true, because you don't want to be stuck in that, in your past, and it's easy to do. Sometimes we can reflect on the things that happened to us in our past, and we can get stuck there. And I had this conversation about previously with someone that was on a podcast, is how we have to tap into our authentic selves and overcome our past. Because I mean, our past is one thing, but to take your past and your experiences and turn it into purpose is another. And it's good that people can see that, because you have people like my audience. This podcast is based on mental health and wellness, and some of my audience members might be struggling with some things that they don't know how to come out of. And it's good to have people like yourself on the podcast, that they, where they can hear stories like yours and how you overcame, some of the things that you experienced. Because sometimes people feel like they just life, that life is nothing for them anymore. It's like, I went through these things, and then they find themselves stuck there. So it's good to have, someone like you that can say, okay, yeah, I've been there, but I'm not there anymore. This is where I'm at now.
Yeah, I
So
think, and everybody has to realize that we all handle things differently.
yeah.
And so whatever, and that's why I think that tapping into your dopeness and your healing and overcoming whatever your situations are, they're deeply personal.
Mm-hmm.
And what works for one person may not necessarily work the same way for another person. And so
Mm-hmm.
you tap into the different things that are going to help you and work for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then a lot of times too, we don't give ourselves enough grace in order to be able to heal. We're holding ourselves accountable to some things that we may not, we may need to release.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to truly forgive, and you have to forgive yourself, because I think
Mm-hmm.
ourselves hostage to pain, and that's where those trauma bonds come in, where we're bonded to the traumatic events of our lives, and whatever you're bonded to, you're going to attract more of.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we need to figure out, how do we release those things so that we can tap into the greater things of us, the good things of us, and then we can attract more good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about a little bit about your podcast. You have a podcast called what is it? Sipping Soul Speak.
Yeah.
Uh, Tell me about the podcast and how the podcast came about.
So I think that's interesting. So the podcast came about where I was running a mastermind group for women entrepreneurs. And I was talking to one of my friends who had a wine business, and it was during the pandemic. And I said, why don't you just go live and start talking about wines? Just people want to know about things that they don't know about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. And I was like, no, you can, for sure. You should do that. I think that, if you pick a day and just go and talk about wine. You're very passionate about it. You're very knowledgeable about wines. And they were just like, I can't do it right by myself.
Right.
I can do it with you. And they were like, okay, well, it was my idea for them to do it, but I kind of spearheaded it because they were more shy about getting it started or what to do. I'm like, we just gonna do it. And so I said, let me come up with a name for it and we'll think about it. So we started 3 years ago, the Sipping and Soul Speak podcast. So what we do is we talk about whatever we're sipping on in the beginning of the podcast. And so that can be anything from sparkling water to sparkling wine, everything in between and beyond. So, and it's live. It's a live video podcast. So our audience is interactive. They get on, they jump in. They're supposed to tell us what they're sipping on, and then about whatever. So we started with wine, and we did that for, I don't know, maybe a couple of months, and they were like, okay, I'm not committed to it anymore. And so I've had different guest hosts that have come on. We've had different guests that come on. We've had former NFL players on the show. We've had people who talk about healing modalities like a Reiki master. We've had we try to expose people to different things. And we talk about what we're sipping on, and then we have what we call, some soul conversations.
Oh, okay. Okay. How long has the podcast been running? How long have you guys had the podcast up and running?
3 years, and we're getting ready to celebrate next week our 150th episode.
Oh, okay. So I see you have here a couple, it's called Couples, Cocktails, and Mocktails. And more with a dash of inspiration through affirmation. So do you incorporate the affirmations through your book into the podcast?
So sometimes when we first started, I think I released the book in right earlier that year. So we used to go through an affirmation like every day, talk about the affirmation that we were talking about, and then we would go into the affirmations story, and we would kind of go from there. The new book that's upcoming, it'll be dropping later this year, is so hopefully in the summer. We're shooting for June. It's called the Soul Sip Collection. And so in that particular book, we're kind of mixing, I love a good play on words. So we're mixing like the cocktail from our Sipping and Soul Speak show along with the DŌP Life affirmations. So I'm excited.
You excited? Yeah. So this will be your second book then.
It is, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm looking into doing the same thing. I don't want to speak too soon about it yet, but I'm working my way down that road.
As if they were.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing I want to talk about is you're also a real estate agent as well.
I am. So I left corporate leadership after being in that for 20 plus years. And I retired, right?
Okay.
But I started doing my own thing. I've always had my own business, but I got into real estate, and so I'm doing real estate in the DMV. I'm the dopest agent.
Okay, all right, that's right.
My job is to make your next move your best move.
I know that's right. I know that's right. So is that something you was doing on the side while you was in the corporate business? Working in the corporate world?
It wasn't. I think in order to, and this is no dig at people who kind of do real estate on the side per se. I think real estate is is a challenge to do on the side, right? Part-time. I think people do it very well. They have a full career and they do it, but I kind of jumped into it with both feet once I left corporate leadership and could kind of focus on providing the level of service that I needed to provide to my clients.
What's the real estate market like out there? And you're in Washington, D.C., right?
I'm in the, so we call it the DMV, right? The DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So I'm in Maryland, but I'm close to DC, like 15 minutes outside of DC.
Now, what is the market, the housing market like? Because I know ever since the pandemic, the interest rates are sky high. The houses actually went up sky high. They said the best time to buy a house was right before the pandemic. What is the housing market like out there where you're at in your area?
I think that's a loaded question. It depends on who's asking and from what perspective, right? So there's not a lot of inventory here. So the market is, it's still doing well. And I think that people are always going to need somewhere to live. So, whether they're growing their family, whether they're downsizing their home because now they're empty nesters, whether they're relocating for their job, into this area or out of this area, there's going to be a need for people to have those real estate transactions and interactions. So, but the inventory there's not a lot of inventory. So when people want to sell their houses, a lot of the times they are going kind of quickly because people still need somewhere to live.
Yeah, because I know in some places, like some of these apartments, the prices for apartments are ridiculous. It's like the price of a mortgage payment nowadays, where everything went
Somebody has to pay a mortgage on it.
Huh? Say that again.
It's just not your mortgage payment if you're renting it.
Yeah. I know over in this area, I'm in Pennsylvania, and I mean the prices over here is like, as far as like a one bedroom, they want like $1,600-$1,700 a month for a one bedroom apartment. I was like, you know what? That's crazy. You might as well just go ahead and buy a house.
And I think that depends, and that's all relative because in this area, depending, right? If you're in DC, you're not getting anything for $1,600 a month.
Yeah. So what's the next thing for you as far as, okay, you got the book, you got another book you working on, you got the podcast, and you're a real estate agent. So what's the next thing for you?
I mean, I think the next thing is that my focus is really kind of sipping and soul speak and what I do with that, with the DŌP Life Movement and real estate. Those are my focus at this particular point. So my purpose in life is to inspire.
Right.
I know that is my ikigai, if you've ever heard of that, right? It's like your reason for getting up in the morning is to inspire and to inspire other people to live their best life. And if I can encourage you, if I can help you along the way of saying, hey, you know what? Don't go that way. Don't go down that road because there's a pitfall over there. I've been down that road before, and I'm telling you right now, there's a huge sinkhole if you go that way. So I can give you the detour, right? Go this way and try to do this thing a little bit differently. That is what I am here to do. I'm here to inspire people to live their best life, to live their DŌP life, and to try to avoid the things that maybe I have fallen into, if that makes sense.
Right, right. Do you find a a sense of happiness having a purpose of helping other people more so than you did when you was just getting up and going to work to your corporate everyday life? Does it feel a lot better being able to just serve and help somebody else? Does that give you more of, I know for me it does. That's why I'm asking that question, because I know that's where I get a lot of my fulfillment from, is being able to help people, who are struggling with some of the issues that I struggled with. And I found like I had that's where I get a lot of my fulfillment from. Do you feel the same way when you're doing the same thing?
I do find joy and fulfillment in in assisting and helping others. I don't, but I don't separate it,
Mm-hmm.
right, from corporate, because I, I feel like there was so many opportunities for me to make a difference, especially as a leader, right? And when you're a leader of leaders, um, you we don't always realize that there's always an opportunity for us to have an impact on someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be anywhere. It doesn't have to just, I don't have to be on a podcast and talk to people about, you know, life and whatever. I could do that in the grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
right? I could do that at the doctor's office. I can do that wherever I am. So I can do that in the workplace, and it also, and there's a certain kind of way that you're doing that, but people are people,
Mm-hmm.
and people bring their whole self wherever they are. And that's why I remember I would talk to some of my, some of the people that I worked with, and they would come to me, and I have a leader that comes to me and says, hey, you know Johnny's not doing his job, and I don't know why he won't do his job, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, well, did you ask Johnny if he was okay?
Right.
Because Johnny's kid might have threw up on his shoes as he was getting ready to leave the house, and the dog, took a dump in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have no idea, Johnny's wife might have decided she don't want to be with him anymore this morning as he was
Mm-hmm.
walking out the door to work. People bring their whole selves to situations and wherever they are.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we're so busy worried about our task or what we got going on and things like that, that we don't even take the time to be like, hey, you okay? You good?
Mm-hmm.
And mean it. Because
Right.
so what's our normal response when somebody says, hey, how you doing?
And the first thing we say, okay. And sometimes we really ain't doing okay.
Right.
That's just a natural response.
I'm all right. And sometimes we're not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't realize it's okay to not be okay.
That's
Like,
true. That's
and,
true.
and sometimes we don't want to we think we have to be okay all the time,
That's true.
especially in our community. We think that we have to be okay all the time. And for women who look like us, we got to be all things to all people at all times. And
Mm-hmm.
we can never show weakness. And we have to be strong. We got to be strong Black women. Listen, we're people. We bring our whole selves to whatever situation we have going on. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you're not okay.
That's
And
true.
that's okay.
Yeah. It's okay not to be okay. But the thing is, a lot of times people are afraid to talk about what they're going through. Sometimes, they don't feel comfortable talking to everybody about it, because they feel like somebody gonna run and go tell this person or tell,
That,
how us Black folks is. Some of us just like to gossip and be in people business and just, use it as a way of gossip. But a lot of people don't really be concerned about what people really are going through. You know what I mean?
and that's so true. But I'll tell you, one of the things that a lot of the times we're so worried about what somebody's gonna think about us, what somebody's gonna say about us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to go get your healing however you need to get it.
That's
And
true.
worried about this person thinks this about me, or this person is saying that about me. And so now there's no safe place for you to sit back and have these conversations.
That's
And
true.
and there's something wrong with you if you need to go to somebody else to get some mental health help. No, you got to do what you need to do for you.
That's
And
right.
you, somebody told me this was years ago. I was coming out of my situation where I had, been in a domestic violence situation, and someone said to me, your story is gonna help people. And I said, what do you mean? And they were like, that's gonna help somebody else. And I was like, why would I tell this to anybody? And they said to me, like, what do you mean? And I'm like, this is embarrassing. I wouldn't tell anybody this. Like, what are you talking about? But it kept coming to me like I needed to tell my story, and I needed to tell my story. And we have to get, if we're going to help to heal someone else, we have to get over ourselves. And people going to talk regardless.
That's true. That's what I say.
They are going to talk regardless. Everybody got something, it's all over social media. But you have to get to the point where you're like, listen, I can't care more about what you think than I care about me.
That's true. That's true. And the fact that somebody else probably need to hear that story. Somebody needs to hear your story so they can open up and be encourage, what's the word I'm looking for, so they can open up and be able to talk about what they're going through. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, like we were just saying, people are so worried about what other people are going to say. Like me, I don't really care what people say, because people, like you said, people going to talk, and it's all, and that's what social media is for. It's a bunch of, not all of it, but a lot of it is all about people commenting about other people's lives. And a lot of times people don't even sit back and look at their own life. They be quick to comment about somebody else.
People worried about commenting on somebody else's life. I find it very interesting a lot of times when you're like, people not telling the whole story.
That's true. Yeah.
They only from a point of view that makes them look good or bad, right? Because sometimes people want to be the victim. And you're like, and people start to give advice. It is amazing to me how people would jump into a social media chat and say, well, what do y'all think about this? Well, first of all, you don't have a whole story, because I got more questions than I have answers, because I need to know more in order to guide you appropriately. But we want to get here and we take half information and we start telling people, oh, well, so that just means he's cheating. That just means she's doing whatever. That just means all of these things. And you have no idea what you're talking about. And why are you taking all of this crazy advice from these people who don't even have the full story?
Exactly. That's true. That's true. People don't, and that's funny because on social media, a lot of people don't have the full story. They be so quick to make their decision about you based on something you posted, or but they don't know what's going on behind these computers. You know, we got so many, it's a lot of I'm gonna tell you, it's so many gurus on social media. Social media have you all over the place. If you listen to a lot of these folks on here, social media will make you go crazy. Like a lot of times, see, I use it most of the time for business purposes. Every once in a while, I like to get on my other little page and post certain things, but I don't spend a lot of time on there because it's just too much. It's just your mind is taking in too much of negativity to some of the stuff that they post on there, the violence, it's just a lot going on there. But I guess it all depends on the type of friends you have too. That's the thing. You got to be careful of the type of friends you have.
Not just the type of friends you have. And I will, because I think that social media has just like anything else, right? There's the great parts of it, and then there's the deltas. And I think that when you get to curate your social media page the way that you want to,
That's
right?
true.
So there's certain things that I just don't see. And the reason I see them is because the way today, because the algorithms are going to change all the time, but the way algorithms work is that what you engage with is what you're going to see more of.
That's
right?
true.
And so if I'm not engaging with the fighting in the streets and the whatever that craziness is, then I'm not going to see that. That's not going to be what comes into my feed. But the other thing is, like you said, to your point of your friend, the friends that you have, you have the right. I'm gonna tell each and every person out there right now, you have the right to unfriend people.
That's true.
You are not required to be friends with cousin Jane, who is always woe is me and blah blah blah. Like I have literally, you can unfollow people, you can unfriend people,
you can block them.
Block people.
Yeah.
Block.
Yeah.
I don't ever have to see that again. And so you wouldn't let someone in your house who kept disrespecting you, who made you feel. So look at your social media feed as just that. This is your house and you get to curate the way you want to. So if you start seeing things that you don't love, you can unfollow that person. They even have now where maybe they just going through something for a minute. You can snooze them for a period of time and just be like, until you get your little life together and your little stuff together, I don't want to see what you're posting.
Right, that's true. And they have those little hide buttons too, where you can hide certain things if you don't want to see it. Nowadays on social media, all you see is everybody shaking their behind. I said, God dog. I mean, some of these women, they be giving up. I mean, I don't like to judge. I mean, people do what they want. Everybody have a choice to do what they want to do. That's them. But I just I just all my life I just didn't feel like I had to take my clothes off and show the whole world to get some attention. I'm like, you can't get no attention with your mind. You got to get attention with showing your behind on social media. I mean, I don't get it. I'm like, I mean, you must ain't got no brains if you got to show your behind. That's the way I look at it.
It's what's getting the attention, and it's what's creating the life.
That's what sells. Yeah, that's what sells. Sex sells, drama sells, violence sells. It's a shame. Yeah. It's a shame, and people are making money off of it.
I think but clearly there's a market for it, because if there weren't, it would not continue. So somebody likes it, and then that's not for me. I don't see a lot of the twerking. I don't see any of the fights. I don't see any of that. You curate your page to where all you see are puppies and daffodils. And every time you open it up, it's gonna be puppies and daffodils. Right. So if you see these other things, then know you are part of the problem.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you something. Sometimes I have to delete certain things as I'm on social media a lot of times. Like sometimes I could be scrolling through, if I go down to, to read something or look at something and I see somebody pop up and showing it behind, I said, oh, block. I mean, who wants to see that? I mean, come on now.
Them girls on the pole, I'm gonna watch that video because that is talent.
Pole dancing.
that is talent.
Yeah, that's talent. If you can get up on the pole and swing around.
That arm strength, baby.
Oh yeah. Some people, yeah. I mean, and you see some. I mean, no disrespect to the big girls, but you see a lot of them. That's talent. If a big girl can get up on a pole,
talent, sis.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna make it rain. That's talent. I can't say that.
Right.
However, comma.
Right.
I am not mad at it. And to your point, right? Whatever people do, what's for you is for you, and
Right.
what may for you may not be for me.
Right.
And as long as you're not hurting anybody.
Yeah. As long as you're not hurting. Right. Yeah. That's true. Because that's what, we don't want to see a lot of that. So tell me about so the books. We need to know, let the audience where they can get your book. Is it on where is it on where could they purchase it?
You can purchase my book on Amazon. You can purchase it on my page, DelacyPaisley.com. If you go there, you'll see the links that can take you to where you can actually pre-order the book that's coming out.
Okay.
And you can order you can order the I Am the Dopest book that's in publication right now.
Okay. I'm gonna definitely go on Amazon and get this book because I got a stack of books. Let me tell you. I still have some books that I haven't read yet. But a lot of times when I have podcasts, guests on the podcast who are authors, I usually like to purchase the book and read the book after I've done the interview. Some people do it the other way around. They usually read the book and then do the podcast, but I like to do it. I do it the other way around. So
I recently had a author on the show, and she had written this book, and baby, that book was a page turner because it's called Situations, and it was about her life, and it was a page turner, and I started reading it before she came on the show, so that was a great conversation.
really, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so and the podcast is on YouTube. You can
The
catch.
podcast is actually on Facebook. We do post some of the stuff to YouTube. We'll be posting more of it to YouTube. We go
Okay.
live. It's live, so we go live at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesdays on my page, Lacy Paisley.
Okay.
So that's DACY Paisley. Yeah, you can find Sipping and Soul Speak there, and we'll eventually be going to all of the other platforms as well.
Oh, good. That's nice. Well, DeLacy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing all this good information. And I really like that. I am the dopest. That's right. You got to keep telling yourself that. Yeah. Wake up in the morning and say, I'm dope. Too. You ain't gotta wait for people to see, we ain't gotta wait for people to tell us how dope we is.
We don't have to wait for somebody else to validate us. I think
Right.
we're looking, just like on social media, we're looking for somebody else to give us that like, somebody to validate us, somebody to give us a comment. Like, that's what affirmations are about. I can get up in the morning and say, I am the dopest.
Mm-hmm. And you
Like,
ain't gotta have a million likes or a million subscribers. I don't depend on people to validate who I am.
just like myself.
That's right. And a lot of times I do that too. A lot of times I post things and I like it, even if nobody else don't like it. I ain't looking for you to like it. I like it. Oh, I'm losing your sound a little bit. You going in and out, but could you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay, now I can hear you. You was breaking up a little bit, but yeah, that's what I was saying. I was saying, shoot, you ain't got to wait for nobody to validate you, and that's the problem with the world today. We look for validation, and it's a natural thing to want to be like. It's a human instinct, but you don't want to have to depend on, somebody else to tell you how worthy you are.
And that's so true. We Being validated is great, but we don't have to wait for the validation to come from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
We can, you know, we can we can validate ourselves, we can encourage ourselves, we can pat ourselves on the back.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think also at the same time, if we did more of being like, sis, your glasses are fire, like I like them. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That it, what did that cost me?
Right.
How much time did it take me? 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt for us to be kind. It doesn't hurt for us to say, yo, like you're really dope. Like you got a dope vibe. You got your earrings or whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
walk up to a stranger and compliment them on something, a genuine compliment. I don't be
Right.
out here with some old raggedy half behind compliments.
Right.
Get a genuine compliment, like, oh yeah, you're. I like your bracelets,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost us anything,
Mm-hmm.
and we can make some changes in how we view this world and how we're viewed in it.
That's true. That is so true. That's a good way to end this podcast too. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on, Paisley. And for the audience, make sure you like and subscribe. Like Paisley said, it don't cost you a dime. It don't cost nothing to hit that subscribe button, you know. And if you keep subscribing, I could bring on more people like Paisley onto the podcast. So I really appreciate it if you guys hit that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to tune in next week for the next episode. And Paisley, thanks again for stopping in. I really appreciate it. And you have a blessed one. And I'll definitely be getting that book also.
Having me, I appreciate you and what you do. Thank you for allowing me to share this space with you on Let's Talk About This.
Thank you so much. You have a good evening.
Because you
Okay, bye bye. Oh man, that was a good interview. Okay, so I end and me.